I am Stephen Kamlish. I'm acting for the Lawrence family. Can I ask you about your first aid training? You do accept, do you not, that one of the most important matters for a person with a first aid qualification attending a bleeding person is to try and staunch the blood?
We were told it was a head injury. I believe the best thing to do for Stephen was to just leave him where he was. It was dark. I couldn't see where the blood was coming from.
You had a torch in your car?
Yes.
Why didn't you get the torch?
I don't know.
Nobody mentioned the word stabbing at the scene?
No.
Were you concerned that you had in fact not looked for the injury?
Well, obviously now I do regret that.
Is it fair to say, is it not, that no one, while you were there, tried to identify the wound?
Not that I saw.
Is it fair to say that once you saw the fact that Stephen's chest was drenched in blood, coupled with his unconsciousness, and the fact that you believed it was a head injury, you must have felt by then that his injury was life-threatening?
I hadn't assumed it was life-threatening. I hadn't assumed he was going to die.
You went back to the hospital the next day to speak to the nurse who cared for him.
Yes, we wanted to talk about it with somebody who knew exactly what had happened.
One of the reasons you went back was wondering whether you could have done more.
Yes. And she said no.
In view of the questions I've asked you, and in view of the answers you've been given about your failure to touch Stephen, can I just ask some questions on another connected topic?
Yes.
In what ways do you consider in this country that racism manifests itself?
Obviously in all sorts of ways.
Well, perhaps these questions will relate to other officers. Perhaps I'll ask a more focused question dealing with your experience. Have you ever been present when someone has suffered racism in whatever form?
No.
Never heard a racist comment in the Metropolitan Police by any police officer?
No. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I don't specifically recall any.
It's obvious that you've been stabbed.
Well, it wasn't obvious to me, no, sir.
Why did you not move him slightly, just to see if there was a wound, such as a chest wound?
I didn't want to move him.
Why?
Because an ambulance was on its way and I thought he was best left in the position he was in.
What? To bleed to death?
I didn't know he was going to bleed to death. The ambulance came and we put him in the ambulance.
At the hospital, you decided that Mr. Lawrence was the person you should take to the identification. Why?
He appeared to be very calm.
What was said about the identification?
I'm afraid I cannot say what the words were.
You see, Mr. Gleason, the family had been in to identify Stephen about half an hour before. So, if you are telling the truth, this would be a completely unnecessary event.
I'm not aware of that.
You are aware, you know, that not a single member of the hospital staff recalls this event. You're going with Mr. Lawrence to identify the body.
No.
Do you know that?
No, but it is noted in my pocketbook that this happened.
Did you ask Mr. Lawrence to sign your pocketbook to confirm that he had made identification?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I thought it was traumatic enough to see his son there. There was no way I was going to thrust the pocketbook on him and say, please sign here.
Do you know why, in the light of what you just said, the family were taken formally to identify their son on Saturday at the mortuary?
No, I don't, sir.
Just describe what happened when you got into the room, please.
Mr. Lawrence identified his son.
Come on, Mr. Gleason. What was Mr. Lawrence's reaction?
Distressed, shocked.
Did he cry?
Honestly, cannot remember.
Did he touch his son's body?
I don't know, I cannot remember.
This did not happen.
Well, it did happen because it's noted in my pocketbook.
With Stephen still there. Stephen's lifeless body.
I believe WPC Bethel came up at some point, but it was just myself and Stephen.
You said that you radioed Dwayne Smoke's account?
It's radioed out what Dwayne said. Whether they recorded it or not, I don't know.
It is probably the most crucial information that the Metropolitan Police Service group received that night, at an early stage. A description of the suspects.
Yes.
There's no record of such radio message. You know that, don't you?
No, I don't.
Mr. Gleason, you were the only police officer who was at the hospital throughout, from the time that Stephen was taken there until you left at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have to say this. The liaison with the family was hopeless. Who was your boss, so to speak?
Who was overall in command of the incident? I don't know.
I think you actually held the first stage certificate since you were 11.
That's right, yeah.
When you have a first aid training course, stemming the flow of blood is one of the most important features you were taught.
Yes, because you can save somebody's life.
When you first arrived back from where you had been, you actually spoke to a police officer, did you not?
Master did. He asked one of the officers, the one standing by Stephen, can we be of any assistance?
What did the police officer say?
They declined. They said that he had been attacked and the ambulance was on its way.
You've never been asked to make a statement by the Metropolitan Police?
No.
Nor have you ever had a knock on the door and been asked for an account of that night?
The police have never got in contact with me or my family.
Thank you very much. Finally, we end with a minute of silence to remember Stephen Lawrence and to couple with that our congratulations, if that is the right word, on the courage of Dwayne Brooks and of his parents. Would you stand with us for a minute of silence